Some refer to it as shopping while black. It's when people of color at a place of business are regarded with suspicion. In other words, they're racially profiled. It's what might have been at play 2 weeks ago at a Philadelphia Starbucks, where Rashawn Nelson and Dante Robinson had not placed an order while waiting for a friend to arrive. The store manager called the police and the two men were arrested. The incident, caught on cell phone video by another customer, resulted in immediate international outrage. And now the company says it will close 8,000 of its stores for a few hours next month for racial training. In the meantime, the company's CEO issued this video apology.
What happened and the way that incident escalated and the outcome was nothing but reprehensible. And I'm sorry. I want to apologize to the community in Philadelphia and to all my Starbucks partners. This is not who we are, and it's not who we're going to be. We are going to learn from this, and we will be better for it.
Meanwhile, here in Chicago, a group of black teens were kicked out of Water Tower Place in March for what was termed loitering. It appears to be a case very similar to what happened in Philadelphia, and the high-end mall has since apologized. Joining us tonight to share their perspectives on racial training and other issues surrounding this subject are Melody Spann-Cooper, President and General Manager of WVON AM Radio and Chairwoman of the station's parent company, Midway Broadcasting Corporation, and Richard Wooten, a retired Chicago police officer who worked in the Englewood and Auburn Gresham neighborhoods in patrol, tactical, and community policing units. He was a member of the Police Accountability Task Force and is now a security consultant. Thank you both for being here tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Melody Spann-Cooper, the best spin being put on this incident in Philadelphia was that an overzealous manager was not going to have any customers in her store that were going to go to the bathroom or hang out without buying something. Do you buy that?
I believe that operative word there is overzealous. And the bad part about this is that Starbucks across the country is taking the heat for it. I own a business. I have talk show hosts every day who say things that I don't necessarily agree with. And I have to bear the brunt of that. And I think that's just what happened in this case. Starbucks has proven itself to be a decent company. As you recall, 3 years ago, they were the first company I'd ever seen to attempt to have a conversation, a national conversation about race. And what happened? The customers rebuked it. They told them to stick to making coffee. They did not want to have the conversation. I find it so ironic that this would be the company in which this transgression would take place.
So there's no doubt in your mind that this was a racially motivated incident?
Absolutely. They were profiled.
Do you agree, Richard Wooten?
I agree totally. You know, the manager, first of all, foremost, was out of her way, and she was really not penalized or punished the way she should have been. Everyone in this situation was kind of like everything was swept under the rug. The only two individuals that was really hurt that day were the two African-American males.
Well, let's talk about the police presence that came, because there were African-Americans among those police officers. Did they have to arrest them? Could they have escorted them outside? Did they question them as you would have questioned them?
You know, officers have a due diligence responsibility to actually conduct a thorough investigation when they're on scene. And those officers apparently didn't do any type of investigations. They went on the word of what the manager said without actually conducting any interviews through witnesses or things of that nature. No officer have to actually make an arrest unless it's actually through a court order or if it's some type of substantial violent nature that exists. This chief of police over in Philly, you know, I really, you know, feel that he didn't take a political stance on this here situation.
Well, he actually issued an apology as well. Yes. And let's listen to a little bit of what Philadelphia Police Commissioner Richard Ross had to say.
While this is apparently a well-known fact with Starbucks customers, not everyone is aware that people spend long hours in Starbucks and aren't necessarily expected to make a purchase. I can appreciate, in light of the Starbucks policy and how well known it is to many, why these two men were appalled when they were asked to leave. For this reason, I apologize to them.
And that was Richard Ross, not Richard Wooten, who's still in here. So, Melody, the problem is, according to the police commissioner there, that there is not a solid policy that everybody knows about what you can and can't do at a Starbucks, or even if we extend this to other businesses or other areas where you can hang out, like a mall.
Listen, it is a sad day when you can't use a public bathroom. It is sad whether you buy coffee or not. They're public bathrooms. And the bottom line is these gentlemen were they were profiled, and it happens so often. It happens to me. I don't know that you can meet an African American in this country who can honestly say that they've never been profiled.
Well, actually, can the two of you give me instances where you feel that you have been racially profiled or were subjected to black while shopping or shopping while black?
How about black while walking your dog? I live in the South Loop, and I had an experience just last week. You know, construction had a young lady who was white and had a small puppy go through an alley, and we both were forced in the alley. So here's the sad psychosis of what's happening with us. When I realized I was going in the alley with her, I initially started making noise because I knew I was behind her and I didn't want to frighten her. So her dog was small. I've got this big German Shepherd. She picks up her dog and she begins to move faster because she realizes I'm behind her, right? And so we get to this T in the alley. I have to turn in because I live at the T. She doesn't know this. So when I turned behind her, she literally started running.
So you don't think this was an incident of she just didn't want her little dog subjected to your big dog and possibly a confrontation there?
I would think that. But when I went to my garage, she turned around and went back to the alley, which we came from. Now, here's the sad thing, and I thought right then, because it's offensive, right, to me as an American. And I thought right then, I didn't want to correct her. I said, I wonder if she thought, wow, I really blew that, or wow, I dodged a bullet.
Richard, when you were a police officer and you were working in Englewood and the Auburn-Gresham communities, what did you tell folks, or especially young people, in terms of going into stores where they might be profiled or where they might be thought of as undesirables?
Well, you know, the thing is that, you know, that's a topic of discussion that we really never have with our young people, and it's something that we do really need to have. When we talk about racial profiling, this is not something new. This is something that's been going on. When I was 13 years old, I was racially profiled. I grew up in the Auburn-Gresham neighborhood. And me and some friends, we walking down the street, going westbound on 79th from Carpenter, and we just having a good time. We walked past 79th and Western, and a white guy pulls us over and say, hey, what are you guys doing over here? Where do you live? And we told him where we live. He said, that's on the other side of Western. You need to get back over there. We have a lot of police officers and firemen over here. And if we catch anybody, if one of you catch stealing one of our kids' bikes, we're going to go ahead and deal with you. Now, when you hear those words as a young man, you know, it sets off something in you like, wow, what just happened? So this racial bias and racial profiling is not something that's new. This is something that's been going on, and it's still continuously going on, even not just in the city of Chicago, but throughout the United States of America.
Well, here we are having the conversation, and hopefully a lot of people are listening in. So, Melody, what are your listeners on WVON saying, and what should the community at large know?
Well, you know, they know this. This is one of the reasons why VON exists, so people can have a free forum to discuss issues, right? I would like to believe that our station provides a great equalizer. But what we are going to do right now, because of the Starbucks, we are now asking our listeners to send in videos where they believe and explain when they've been racially profiled. Because I think that we need to have a conversation with the American people. You have one group of now I can't say all, but a lot of white people don't believe that racial profiling exists. They just don't.
That's why they're calling this unconscious bias, and that's the kind of training that they're going to be having at Starbucks late in May. So
we commend them for that, but 6 hours is not long enough for training.
So what can happen in those 6 hours, Richard,
we need to
change some minds?
We need to have a diversity training program, not just for 6 hours, but for a lifetime. Our schools need to have diversity education in them. And in order for that to happen, our legislators have to get more involved and engage in pinpointing the issues of how racism actually takes a big blot out of our communities. And if we don't deal with this here right now, 20, 30 years from now, we're going to have a major civil war going on between races in our United States of America.
Are some of these kids, though, that are coming to school, even if there are these programs, bringing these sentiments from home?
Of course.
That's where they get them from. It's the only place you can.
So how do you change those hearts and minds? Or is it just changing the younger generation and starting there at school?
Well, implicit behavior starts off based on what you see and what you learn in life. And a lot of this here, actions that we see is basically what was brought into our home and our household. And basically what the media has actually shown. Media has a very big part in this, because every time you turn on the news, what do you see? You see mostly African-American men, these African-American kids talked about how they actually went downtown and robbed certain people. So, you wouldn't have, you can understand why some people live in fear. So, but what they have to understand is that there's only a small fraction of people in our community that commit these particular crimes. Just like if you go in a white community, there's a small fraction of whites that will commit a crime. Don't base everyone on what you see in that small fraction.
Melody Spann-Cooper, the incident that happened at Water Tower Place, it may have been a one-time deal. It may be something that happens there often, but these kids definitely got the attention. What do businesses like this need to do if there are concerns about shoplifters or anything else, which these kids weren't exhibiting any of that, but they do have some concerns about that. So what are you saying to these companies?
Listen, I don't know a teenager who hasn't hung out at a mall. And I tell people, if you are that fearful and you are that afraid, then you need to close up. You don't need to be there. And that's why this conversation we're having right now, what Starbucks attempted to do 3 years ago when they wanted to have a conversation about race, we need to be open and honest and have conversations about race. When we get to know one another, the world's a better place. When we listen and take into consideration our backgrounds, what we're bringing to the conversation, and be open to doing better and understanding our different cultures. There is beauty in that. And listen, I went to an all-white girls' school, at high school, Mother Macaulay, right? That was my first really introduction to being around white people, right? And for a lot of my schoolmates, it was their first introduction for being about me. I have friends left from there because we got to know one another. Not what we saw on television or what we were told at home, because we genuinely got to know one another. Melissa got to know me.
Interaction with real people.
Exactly.
Right. So, Richard Wooten, again, getting back to the community and what the young people are feeling in the African American community, is there always that knowledge that they're being watched or surveilled because everyone might think that they're up to no good?
Definitely, and it's true. When you look around, like you say, walking while black, shopping while black, it's like you're the elephant in the room, and automatically, you get focused on. And the first thing, can I help you? So yes, our kids, they understand what that means, and they relax. And and the kids today, they're not like we were back in the days. They're responding in a little bit different way. But, one of the questions that you ask is that what do these companies need to be doing? A lot of companies now are incorporating a diversity management group within their own organizations, and they're making sure that the employees are properly trained and that information is actually triggered down, as well as, a thorough process is given so that they can make sure that they're treating all customers the same. African Americans, they have actually went over the $1 trillion mark in this here country of spending, which means that the dollar is good, but the presents are not.
So more training and training more often is what you're saying. Melody Spann-Cooper and Richard Wooten, thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you.